Ever thought about what constitutes a trespass according to the Trespass to Property Act, Ontario? Trespassing, in simple terms, refers to the act of unlawfully entering or remaining on another person's property. But as per the Trespass to Property Act of Ontario, a number of offenses fall under the umbrella of trespassing. This act is a vital piece of legislation that helps maintain order and respect for private property. Let's briefly explore the different ways an individual can trespass onto a private property. Firstly, an individual is considered to be trespassing when they enter premises where entry is explicitly prohibited. This could be a private home, a business, or any other property with clear signs or instructions against unauthorized entry. Secondly, engaging in an activity on premises where the activity itself is prohibited also constitutes trespassing. Imagine a scenario where a sign clearly states no skateboarding, yet an individual decides to skateboard anyway. This act would also be considered a trespass under the act. Lastly, if an individual does not leave the premises immediately after they've been directed to do so by the occupier of the premises or a person authorized by the occupier, they are in violation of the act. This means that even if an individual had the right to be on the property at one point, they could still be trespassing if they refuse to leave when asked. It's important to note that anyone who commits these offenses without acting under a right or authority conferred by law is guilty of trespassing, and upon conviction they could be liable to a fine of not more than $10,000. Understanding the nuances of what constitutes a trespass is the first step to ensuring we respect the rights of property owners and uphold the law. It's not just about crossing a boundary line, it's about acknowledging and respecting the rights of others to their property. In the next scene, we'll delve deeper into the specifics of trespassing. Let's dissect Section 2 of the Trespass to Property Act, which defines a trespass offense. Section 2 of the Act provides a clear framework for understanding when and how trespass occurs. Essentially, it outlines 3 specific conditions under which a person is considered to be trespassing. Firstly, an individual is trespassing when they enter a premise where entry is explicitly prohibited. This could be a private residence, a business establishment, or any other type of property where the individual does not have the legal right or authority to enter. The second condition involves engaging in an activity on a premise where that particular activity is prohibited. This could be anything from riding a bicycle in a shopping mall to holding a loud party in a quiet residential area. If the activity is not allowed on that particular premise and the individual continues to engage in it, they are trespassing. The third and final condition is when an individual does not leave the premises immediately after being directed to do so. This can occur in various scenarios, such as when a security guard asks a disruptive individual to leave a shopping mall or when a homeowner asks an unwanted guest to leave their property. It's important to note that the person committing the trespass must not be acting under a right or authority conferred by law. This means that they cannot claim they had the legal right to enter the property, engage in the prohibited activity, or remain on the premises after being asked to leave. If a person is found guilty of trespassing under these conditions, they could be liable to a fine of not more than $10,000. That's a hefty price to pay for not respecting the boundaries and rules set by others. Now that we understand the legal definition of trespassing, let's see it in action with a real-world example. Imagine, as a security guard, you're working at a local shopping center and you spot 3 individuals causing a safety concern. They're cruising around on their bicycles, weaving in and out of the crowd. Now, this isn't just a case of rowdy behavior, it's a clear violation of the shopping center's rules. Riding bicycles indoors is strictly prohibited due to the safety risks it poses to patrons. So let's break down this scenario in light of the Trespass to Property Act, Ontario, RSO 1990. According to Section 2 of the Act, a person is considered to be trespassing when they engage in an activity on premises where that activity is prohibited. In our case, the individuals are engaging in a prohibited activity, that is, riding their bicycles inside the shopping center. This act of theirs is not under any right or authority conferred by law. And despite this fact being quite evident, they continue to ride around, completely disregarding the safety and well-being of the other patrons. This is not just a simple violation of the shopping center's rules, but a violation of the Trespass to Property Act. Now let's say you approach these individuals and inform them that their actions are prohibited in the shopping center, making them aware that they are committing an offense under the Trespass to Property Act. But what if they choose to ignore your warning and continue with their reckless behavior? Well, according to the same act, if a person does not leave the premises immediately after being directed to do so, they are guilty of an offense. So in this situation, these individuals are not just trespassers, but are also potentially liable to a fine of up to $10,000. As per RSO 1990 CT21 S2 1 2016 C8 Shed 6 S1. So what can you, as a security guard, do in such a situation? Let's find out. As a security guard, you have certain powers under the Trespass to Property Act. These powers are derived from your role as an occupier of the property you are protecting. So, what does this term occupier mean in the context of the Act? In the Trespass to Property Act, an occupier is defined as a person who is either in physical possession of premises or a person who has responsibility for and control over the condition of the premises or the activities carried on therein. This also includes control over persons allowed to enter the premises. Now, these premises can range from lands and structures to water bodies, ships, vessels, trailers, portable structures, trains, railway cars, vehicles, and even aircraft. As a security guard, you are an occupier of the property you are tasked to protect. You aren't just a bystander or observer. You have the authority to control who enters the premises and what activities are carried on. You are responsible for maintaining safety and order on the property. But what happens when someone violates the rules? What if someone enters the premises when entry is prohibited or engages in an activity that is not allowed? That's where your powers under the Trespass to Property Act come into play. You have the authority to direct such individuals to leave the premises. If they refuse or fail to do so immediately, they commit an offense under the Act and you have the power to arrest them. But remember, these powers come with responsibilities. After making an arrest, you're required under Section 9, Subsection 2 of the Trespass to Property Act to promptly call for the assistance of a police officer and give the person arrested into the custody of the police officer. But what should you do after making an arrest? Let's discuss that next. So, you've made an arrest under the Trespass to Property Act. What comes next? Well, let's delve into the specifics of what you, as a security guard, should do post-arrest. As per the Trespass to Property Act, RSO 1990, you're not just a security guard but an occupier of the premises. This term includes individuals who are in physical possession of premises, or those who have responsibility for and control over the condition of premises, the activities carried on there, or control over persons allowed to enter. Now, having made an arrest, it's important to be aware of the procedures that follow. These procedures are clearly outlined in Section 9, Subsection 2 of the Trespass to Property Act. This section of the Act emphasizes the requirement to promptly call for police assistance and hand over the arrested individual into the custody of a police officer. So, what does this mean in practice? Immediately after making the arrest, your first step should be to call for the assistance of a police officer. This is a vital step. It's not only a requirement by law, but also ensures that the situation remains within control and under the purview of the law enforcement authorities. Once the police arrive, your next responsibility is to give the arrested person into the custody of the police officer. This transfer of custody is crucial because it allows the law enforcement authorities to take over the case, ensuring that the legal processes that follow are carried out properly and in accordance with the law. Bear in mind, it's not your role as a security guard to decide the guilt or innocence of the individual or to administer any form of punishment. Your role is to uphold the law within the premises you're tasked to protect. By promptly calling for police assistance and handing over the arrested individual, you're doing just that. That's how you enforce the Trespass to Property Act as a security guard. But let's quickly recap everything we've learned. We've covered quite a bit about the Trespass to Property Act and the role of a security guard in enforcing it. Let's take a moment now to circle back and highlight the key points we've discussed. Firstly, we dove into the definition of trespassing under Ontario's Trespass to Property Act. We learned that an individual can commit trespass in one of three ways: by entering a premise when entry is prohibited, by engaging in an activity on a premise when that activity is prohibited, or by refusing to leave the premises immediately after being directed to do so. Next, we turned our attention to a practical example involving a shopping mall, bicycles, and a clear violation of the Trespass to Property Act. This example showed us how the act can be applied in real-life situations and underscored the importance of security guards in identifying and addressing these infractions. We then delved into the powers of a security guard under the Trespass to Property Act. We learned that a security guard operates as an occupier of the property and as such has the authority to effect an arrest under the act. An occupier, as defined by the act, is a person who is either in physical possession of premises or a person who has responsibility for and control over the condition of premises or the activities carried on there. Finally, we discussed the procedures to be followed post-arrest. After making an arrest, a security guard must promptly call for the assistance of a police officer and hand over the arrested individual to their custody. In conclusion, it's clear that the role of a security guard in enforcing the Trespass to Property Act is vital for maintaining safety and order on private property. By understanding the act and your powers under it, you're well equipped to handle any trespassing situations that may arise. Remember, as a security guard, your role is crucial in maintaining safety and order. So stay vigilant, stay informed, and keep doing the great work you're doing.